Hey guys, and welcome to this video. In this video, we're going to talk about Foundation Tier 2022, Paper 2F. Let's start with the questions. As you know, they'll give you some of the formulas, so you know if you need them, you can use them from here. Now, question one. The table shows the length in kilometers of the coastline of each of 5 oceans. These are the 5 oceans. This is the length of the coastline. Question A. Which of these oceans has the greatest length of coastline? When you look at the oceans here, which one has the greatest one, the greatest length? You'll find out that this one, the Pacific one, has the greatest length. It means the answer is Pacific. Now, next question. Write this in words. Now, when you write numbers in words, you don't have to care about spelling mistakes because this is math. They don't care about spelling mistakes as long as it makes sense. Now, here you write 7. Sorry. It's going to be 17th, 17,000, 17,000, 17,900 and 68. 68. As I said, we don't care about spelling mistakes, so it's okay if you write it in wrong spelling. Okay. Now let's move on to the next question here. Question C. Write the number 66526 correct to the nearest thousand. The nearest thousand, it means we look at the thousands, and the thousands is the 6 here. It means this is the 66,000. We need it to the nearest thousand. It means we involve thousand in the answer. And we look at the number after the thousand, which is this one. The 5 is a big number. It means it's going to add 1, the number after it. So the answer will be 67,000. So to the nearest thousand is going to be 67,000. Focus on the numbers, focus on rounding because mistakes sometimes happen in rounding. Now, let's move on to the next question. Question D here. Got the total length of the coastlines of the Arctic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. So we got the total length of the coastlines of the Arctic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. It means add them together. When you say work out total length, it means add them together. So we're going to take the Arctic and Pacific. This is the Arctic, 45,389, 45,389, plus the Pacific, which is 135,663. And the final answer is 181,052. So let's write it down here. Focus on the questions. As we said, this is the total length. So 181,052 is the total length of these two coastlines together. Now let's move on to the next question. Question 2. Write down the order of the rotational symmetry of a square. The order of the rotational symmetry of a square. This means what? It means if you have a square, how many times you can turn it on itself and get back to the same position before. Now, let me show you how is that done. If I have a square like this, because the 4 angles are the same, it means if I round this angle here, it's going to be the same. This is one rotational symmetry, and then take it here, it's going to be the same. Second rotational symmetry, take it here, the same. Third rotational symmetry, and then take it back here, it's going to be the same, which is the 4th rotational symmetry. It means the square has 4 order order of rotational symmetry. It means you can turn it around itself 4 times and it still becomes the same as the original shape. Now let's move on to the next question. Question B, measure the angle or the size of the angle marked X. Now, I'll show you how to measure the angle using the maths pad. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the angle to the maths pad like this. These are the lines. I'm going to take them. And this is the angle we're going to measure. Now, let's go to the maths pad here. Now, in the maths pad here, maths pad, yeah, I'm going to use the protractor to measure the angle. How do we measure angles with protractors? We take the point, put it on the point like this. So we have point on point, and the line should be on the line. Now, I have two zeros. I have to focus on this. I have a zero here in space and 1 0 on the line. I don't use the one in space. I never do that. We never use the one on space. We use the one on the line. So we always start with the zeros on the line. Now I start counting 0 because I counted from the bottom part. I have to continue on the bottom part. I don't jump like this 0, 170. This is wrong. I have to go on the bottom. So 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 55. So the angle that I measured is 55. Now I can write it in the answer here. So it's going to be 55. Now, I want you to focus. When you measure angles, you have to focus on how to use protractors the right way. Now, let's move on to the next question. Write down the mathematical name of this type of angle. Now, this angle here, as we said, it's 55. What's the mathematical name? Very good. It's an acute angle. Acute angle. You have to know the types of angles. Acute angles are between 0 and 90. Uh, angles between 90 and 180 are obtuse angles. Angles bigger than 180, smaller than 100, 360 are reflex angles. So you have to focus on the type or types of angles. Now let's move on to the next question. Here. Here's a 3D shape. As you can see, this is a pyramid. It's obvious. Write down the mathematical name of this shape. This is a pyramid. This is a pyramid. And this pyramid has a base, which is a square. So we call it, very good, a square-based pyramid. A square-based pyramid. So we call this a square-based pyramid. Now let's write it there. Square-based pyramid, like this. Okay. Let's write it here. Square. I'll do it here. Square based pyramid. You have to focus on the shapes, 3D shapes, the names of 3D shapes, and the types of these shapes, because we have a square based pyramid, we have a triangular based pyramid, and they are different because the base will be different. Now let's move on to the next question. How many edges does it have, or does this shape have? Now, when we talk about edges, we have to even mention uh, the meaning of edges. Edges are the meeting of two faces or two surfaces. So when two surfaces meet on a line, they make something called edge. They make something called edge, like this. So one surface and another surface, they will make an edge. So this is an edge, this is an edge. We have another one here, another one here, here, that's another one, that's another one. So till now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 8 edges. So the shape has 8 edges. So focus on that. Understand the meaning of edges. Edges means when two surfaces meet together to make a line. This is called an edge. Now let's move on to the next question. Let's go down. Question 3. The pictogram gives some information about the number of parcels delivered by a delivery company on each of 5 days last week. This is the pictogram. On Monday, the delivery company delivered 20 parcels. Work out the total number of parcels delivered by the delivery company on these 5 days. First, we have to understand what does one box or one square mean. Now, they told us that on Monday, he delivered 20. It means all of these are 20. Now I can figure out how many in each square. So I'm going to take the 20 here, and here I have 10 squares. I'm going to divide them by each other. So divide them by each other like this. So let's do it like this. So 20 divide 10, right, is going to be 2. So each square has 2 parcels. Each square has 2 parcels. Now, because these are 2, it means all of these are 20. Now, the question is, work out the total number of parcels delivered by delivery company on these 5 days. It means the 5 days, all of them together. So I'm going to count them together to find how many are there together. So I can, because I know that one of them or one square is 2, I can count all of them and then multiply it by 2. Now let's count them together. Let me use the pencil. Okay, I'll use this. So let's move on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm gonna count them all together, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So here we have 10. Let's write them so we don't forget them. Here we have 16. Here we have 6, so we write them. Here we have 3. And the last one, we have 4 times 3 is 12 and 13. Okay. So this one is 13. Now I'm going to add all of them together. So let's add all the numbers together. 10 plus 16 plus 6 plus 3 plus 13 equals 48. Now, because I know that each square has 2 parcels inside of it, it means 48. I'm going to multiply it by 2, and I'll get the answer for the total number of parcels. So the answer is 96. The answer is 96. It means all of them together, they have 96 parcels. Okay. Now let's move on to the next question. Question 4. The points ABC shown on the grid, ABC. They are the vertices of triangles, ABC, or the vertex of a triangle ABC. As we said before, we talked about the edges and we didn't talk about vertices or vertex. A vertex means what? A vertex means the meeting of surfaces. More than 2 surfaces meet together, they make a vertex. So that's a vertex here. That's a vertex, 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 vertex. So the square-based pyramid has 5 vertices. Now, let's go back to the question here. So these are the meetings or the vertices of the triangle. Now, the question says, write down the coordinates of the point B. Look at point B and write the coordinates of this point. When you look at point B, you have to check the X and the Y. This is how you write coordinates. So you open a bracket like this. You write the X and then you write the Y. When you look at point B, the X of point B is negative 2. So you have to write negative 2 here. So this one, negative 2. And then comma. And then for point or for the Y, you will have 3. So it's going to be 3. So the coordinates of B is negative 2 and 3. Negative 2 and 3. Now let's move on to the next question. When you take coordinates focus, you have to focus on taking the X first and then the Y. Now, next question here. Write down the mathematical name of the triangle of triangle ABC. As you can see, this triangle has two lines which are the same, AB and AC, and the other line is not the same as them. So we have two lines which are the same. And if a triangle has two lines which are the same, we call it an isosceles triangle. Isosceles triangle. So the mathematical name here is an isosceles triangle. Here, so this one is isosceles, like this, isosceles triangle. Now, the coordinates of point D are 1 and -4. On the grid, mark with a cross X the position of D, label the point D. Now we're going to take these coordinates, put them on the grid. We have 1 and -4. Let's go to the grid, 1 and -4. First, we look for the 1, this is the 1, and then we go to the Y, which is -4, so we go down here. So this is the place of point D. We mark it with a cross like this, 1 and -4. It's going to be marked like this, okay? And this is the point that we're looking for, which is point D. Now let's move on to the next question. Here, we did this. Find the coordinates of the midpoint of AB. Find the coordinates of the midpoint AB. Now, when you look at line AB like this, you can assume that the midpoint is going to be here. But to find it accurately, you're going to use the coordinates of A and B. First, let's find the coordinates of A and B. Coordinates of A, we can see that it's 4 and 1. So here we have 4 and 1. Like this. And when we talk about point B, the coordinates are -2 and 3. So the coordinates here, -2 and 3. These are the coordinates of the point B. Now, after finding the coordinates of point A and point B, we can find the midpoint between them by using these coordinates. To find the midpoint, you add the x's together and then divide them by 2. And then add the y's together and then divide them by 2. So let's take the coordinates on each other. Here we have -2, and then we have 3 for the for point B, and then we have 4 and 1 for point A. So here I put the x's on top of each other, add them together. So 4 minus 2 is going to be 2. And then the same idea here, add them together, it's going to be 4. And then at the end, you have to divide by 2. So the steps of finding the coordinates of the midpoints, first you add the x's together and then divide by 2. Add the y's together and then divide them by 2. So here 2 divide 2 is going to be 1. 4 divide 2 is going to be 2. So the coordinates of the midpoint are 1 and 2. This is how you find the midpoint between 2 points. As we said before, we said if we are trying to find it using the line, it's already over here. So it's 1 and 2. But if you want to be accurate, you have to use the coordinates of the points. Now let's move on to the next question. Here we found the midpoints. Let's move on. Question 5. Here is a shape made of squares. Here we have 5 by 4. So all of them are 20 squares. Shade 3 over 5 of the shape. So we already know that this one is 20 squares. So we multiplied 4 by 5. We know that it's 20 squares. Now we take the fraction and multiply it by 20. So the fraction is 3 over 5. We make it like this in the calculator, 3 over 5. Multiply it by 20 squares. So we know that we're going to shade 12 squares. We're going to shade 12 squares. And this is the idea of this question. So shading, we're going to shade 12 squares. Now let's shade them together. I'm going to use the blocks like this. Yes, let's make them blue. So I'm going to shade this 12 squares. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 6, 9. So 12 squares are shaded out of the 20 squares. Now let's move on to the next question. Which one of these fractions is not equivalent to 4 over 7? The word equivalent means what? It means it has the same value. It has the same value. You can check this with a calculator. This in the calculator, and it will give you a fraction. So 40 over 70, which equals, it will give you 4 over 7. Now let's put this 8 over 14. 8 over 14. It gave me 4 over 7. Next one, 400 over 700. 400 over 700. 4 over 7. Next one, 14 over 17. 14 over 17. It gave me 14 over 17. So this one is not equivalent to this fraction. Now let's put the last one, 20 over 35. 20 over 35. It gave me 4 over 7. It means the one which is not equivalent or which is not equal is this one. And this is how you answer a question like this. You can use a calculator, simplify the fractions, and they will give you the right answer. Now let's move on to the next question. Write 3 over 10 as a percentage. Now, if you want to write a percentage, you always take the fraction and multiply it by 100. So 3 over 10, like this, you just multiply it by 100. And the answer will be 30. So you take the fraction, 3 over 10, and multiply it by 100 using the calculator. It will give you the percentage, which is 30. Let's put the fraction line like this. Focus on the steps. Focus on the ideas of getting percentages. Now, each time you want to turn anything to a percentage, you have to multiply it by 100. Now, let's move on to the next question. Next question here. Write 77 over 9 as a mixed number. How do you turn improper fractions into mixed numbers? Now, first, let's write the improper fraction. Let me show you the steps here. 77 over 9. Let's make it bigger so you understand the idea. So 77 over 9 as a fraction. We call it improper fraction because the numerator is bigger than the denominator. So turn this into an mixed number. A mixed number. A mixed number is what? Is something like this. A whole number and a fraction. We call this a mixed number. So how do we do this? First step, we have to use the same denominator. So we put the same denominator here. So the 9 will be the same. So we put it like this, 9. And then we use the calculator and divide 77 over 9. So 77 divide 9 is going to be 8.5. Now, I'm not looking for the decimals. I just want to take the whole number, which is the 8. So I'm going to take the whole number, put it here. So it's 8. Now, I'm going to do the opposite steps, which is multiplying of these. I'm going to multiply the 9 by the 8 and then subtract it from 77 to get this number. So 9 times 8 equals what? 9 times 8 equals 72. Now I'm going to subtract it from here. So I'm going to say 77 minus 72, and the answer is 5. So I'm going to put the 5 here. These are the steps of turning improper fractions into mixed numbers. Now, there's another method. You can use the calculator to do that. You write 77, divide 9. It will equal 77 over 9. You can push Shift and then SD. It will turn it into a mixed number, which is 8 and 5 over 9. Now, if you want to turn the mixed number into an improper fraction, you're going to do the opposite way. You're going to do what first? You're going to use the same denominator and then multiply these and then add it with this one. So 9 times 8 is 72, plus 5 is going to be 77. And this is how you turn improper fraction into mixed number and vice versa. Now let's move on to the next question. 5 over 6 of a number is 40. What is the number? It means when you take 5 over 6, let's take the question like this. So 5 over 6, when you multiply it by a number, that's the idea of the word of a number. So when you multiply it by a number like this, 5 over 6 times a number, let's call it A, equals 40. So let's find A together. That's the idea of this question. First, let's take 5 over 6. 5 over 6. We will notice that it has a lot of decimals. So I can't use them as decimals because I'm going to lose them in the process. So what I'm going to do is, first, the A is multiplied by the 5. The A is multiplied by the 5 on top. So it means 5A on top of 6 or divided by 6 will equal to 40. Equal 40, like this. Now, I put the A on top in the numerator because this one has a denominator of 1. So when we multiply, 5 times A is 5A, 6 times 1 is 6. Now, I'm going to take the 6 to the other side by multiplying. Because it's divided on this side, I'm going to do the opposite thing and multiply it here. So I'll end up with what? Very good. 5A equals 40 multiplied by 6. Now I'm going to answer this. 5A equals 40 times 6. You can use a calculator here. We have 240. Now I want to get rid of the 5. The 5 is multiplied here, so I'm going to take it to the other side by dividing. I always do the opposite of what I have here. So I'm going to take it to the side by dividing. So I'm going to divide 240 over 5. And because I took it, I can remove it from here. Now A equals 240 over 5. So A equals, I can do it with the calculator, 240 divide 5. It will equal to 48. And this is how you answer a question like this. Now, you can use the calculator and guess the number. But in questions like these, in section B, you must write the steps. Because if you don't write the steps, it means you just use the calculator and they might deduct a mark from you. Now let's move on to the next question. Question 6. The cost of a mobile phone in the UK is £350. Cost of an identical mobile phone in India is 28,938 rupees. The exchange rate is £1 equals 91 rupees. The cost of the mobile phone in the UK is more than the cost of the mobile phone in India. Work how much more. Now, they didn't tell you to work it in pounds or rupees. It means you can use whatever you want. So what we're going to do is we're going to use rupees as an exchange. We're going to exchange everything to rupees. So I'm going to use first the boxes, which I like to call them the X method. You're going to put the boxes like this. These boxes will help you turn anything to something else, as long as you have the exchange rate or the ratio. You can use this with map ratios. You can use it with exchanges of money. Now, here we know the pounds. So this is the pounds. Let me write it here. Okay, I'll write pounds, P for pounds. That's okay. So £1, I'm going to write it here. Always write the exchange rate on top, equals 91 rupees. This is the exchange rate. Now, I need to turn one of them into the other. So I'm going to work with this one. I'm going to turn the £350 into rupees. I have to put it under the pounds boxes. I can't put the pounds under the rupees. In the exchange rate or in the X method, I have to put all the units or the same units on top of each other. So this one is 350. Now I'm going to turn the 350 into rupees. I'm going to put X in the middle. The numbers which are connected with a line, I have to multiply them by each other and then take 31,850. Divided by 1, I'll get the same answer. It means the answer is here 31,850 rupees. So I know that 350 pounds equals 31,850 rupees. Now I'm going to work how much is different. Working how much is different means subtracting the number from each other. So I'm going to subtract 31850 minus 28938. And I will get the answer here. So let's write it here. Minus 28938. And the answer is 2,000, I'm sorry, 2,912 rupees. 2,912 rupees. And this is how you work out the difference between the price of the mobile phones. Now, let's move on to the next question. Before we move on, I want you to understand the X method and how to use it. You can use it in map ratios. You can use it in exchanging money from different currencies and such questions. Now, let's move on. Let's do question 7. Okay. Now, in question 7, Hassan is going to eat at a restaurant. Here is the menu at the restaurant. Here we have a starter and a main course with the letters FPS in starter. And the main course we have BCLR. Hassan is going to choose one starter and one main course from the menu. List all the possible combinations that Hassan can choose. This one is listing all the possible outcomes that come from this. So he's going to choose a starter with a main course. It means the F will go with each one of them, and then the P, the same thing, and then the S, the same thing. Now let's write it as a combination of letters like this. So let's write the answer here. We're going to do it, okay, here. So first, F will go with each one of them. So FB, then FC, and then FL, and then FR. After the F, we have the P. So P, P, PC, PL, PR. Same idea with the S. So SP, SC, SL, SR. And these are the possible outcomes from this restaurant's menu. And this is how you answer a question like this. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.